Hey, Cincinnati fans. Welcome back to another episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We're excited to have you join us tonight as we discuss and celebrate FC Cincinnati's win down in Orlando over Orlando FC. We've got a great show tonight. We've got Roman Celentano joining us, so we don't want to waste too much time in this intro. I want to get right into it so we have some time to talk to Roman when he gets on. Let me introduce our cast. My name is Brian. I'll be hosting the show tonight. Coach is back with us, and Jason Ashcraft here again. So the trio leading the show tonight. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. It was a great weekend of soccer.
It was. There was a lot of soccer, right?
Yep.
We had the Gold Cup. The U.S. men's team played. We had the women's team playing in Cincinnati.
Yep.
I believe you were there for that one. Is that right?
I was there, yeah. Soccer all day. It's nice and hot. Good crowd. It was a great experience.
Yeah, hopefully we got time to talk a little bit about that at the end of the show tonight. And Jason, in from mowing his lawn. How you doing?
From mowing the lawn just in time. There's a storm coming through, so there's like a 75% chance I'll lose power before we make it to Roman Celentano.
Well, let's hope not. We need you for that interview, man. Did you have your generator running in the garage or anything?
Boy, am I made out of money? I can't afford it.
Got the hamster running in his wheel.
Yeah, get the dog on it there.
There you go. Fantastic. Hey, before we get too far, we got to thank our sponsor here tonight, Apollo Home. Temperatures are still hot, guys. I don't know how it is in Cincinnati. It's hot here. I believe it's probably hotter there. Maybe with the storm rolling in, it'll cool down a little bit. If your air conditioning system's not keeping up, give Apollo Home a call. They will love to give you a deal. Let them know that you are a Cincinnati Soccer Talk listener and tell them Mike sent you. Mike said you can get a deal if you mention his name. He's the only one in the office, and he would love to help you out. Give Apollo Home a call now or visit them at apollohome.com. Gentlemen, let's talk about the game that we got to see last night. Was it? No, I'm sorry, Saturday night. I'm all confused. Yeah, I'm all confused on my weekend. I had a lot of soccer too up here in Fort Wayne, and a lot of soccer I watched yesterday. So Cincinnati goes in to before we get there, we got to do our best and worst. I am so excited to get Roman on and just fly through this. Let's talk about our best and worst. Coach, let's start with you.
Yeah, best for me is going to be the defensive game plan in minutes 1 through 90. They forced Orlando City wide and made them settle for crosses, 26 crosses in all. And when you look at Orlando City's crosses per match, 4 of the 5 losses that they have are the 4 times that they've crossed the ball the most. So the FCC coaching staff clearly knew that and set the team up to funnel them wide and force them into crossing the ball. My worst is, I mentioned minutes 1 through 90. My worst is stoppage time, the time when you want your subs to come in, show some steel, and really just kill the game off with some, veteran know-how. Orlando City put up a total of 2.2 XG on the match. 1.4 of that, more than half, was from 2 great chances they had to tie the game in stoppage time.
Yeah, I'm going to put up Sean Pace's best and worst up here. He says his best was Evander having the audacity to strike from that far out, which maybe we'll talk about. But his worst, going along with what you said, Coach, struggling to close out, giving Orlando a golden opportunity to equalize and giving them chance after chance after chance with, 10 minutes of extra time there. It was a lot of time to really try and hold your ground there. Yeah, no doubt. Jason, best and worst.
My best is 5 goals in the past 2 games. We were complaining about how anemic the offense had seemed throughout this season so far. And sure, 2 games is not enough of a data point to really get a trend line going, but I do like the trend that seems to be forming. Evander just really came out of his shell after not playing that well in New England in the past 2 games. I think it's 2 braces in a row. So the offense is starting to click. He got some assist out of Kevin Denke. That's the kind of stuff you want to see from those guys up top. So that's my best. My worst, just defensive lapses. That seems to be kind of the theme there towards the end of games, as Sean mentioned, not being able to close it out with a shutout. But, 3 points is 3 points, so I'll take it anytime.
Yeah, that's that seems to be, again, a theme. Coach mentioned it, you mentioned it, Sean Pace mentioned it, just closing out those games. It was good to see the 5 goals in 2 games, as you mentioned, for sure. Let me get a couple more from our chat. Rupesh says his best is Evander again. His worst is the injury bug seems to be hitting the club. And it's mid-season, right? So they've played a lot of games. They've taken some knocks. I think that's pretty normal here. I'm going to say this, like jumping into my best and worst, I'm going to be positive tonight and not have a worst. I think there are a couple things I wanted to mention. So I've got best number 1 and best number 2. Number 1 is that Cincinnati was missing key players in that starting lineup, which we'll talk about as we get into the game. But they still found a way to win. And I don't think, at least among our chat, when I was looking on social media, very few people were giving Cincinnati a chance when they saw who was missing, playing a tough team in Orlando on the road, and seeing these guys dig in and win a tough, hard-fought match was my best number 1. My best number 2 was Evander seemed to be, at least by the eye test, to be on the ball a lot more this match. And I think some of that had to do with the players around him, which we will talk about as we get into our Talking Tactics segment tonight. And it still makes it look effortless. Like we've talked about what he looks like he was just floating around the field Saturday night and getting good touches on the ball, getting involved, and obviously with the brace, we're excited to see that. So let's get into the game a little bit, guys, before we get Roman on here. Let me say this too: if you have questions, we do have a list of questions that we want to talk to Roman about, and if there's something you would love to know, drop it in the chat, and we'll look at those and filter those. And if it's one we can get in there, we will do that. So he's sitting backstage waiting for us here. Let's get into the game a little bit, guys. Starting lineup, we mentioned Obi was out, Orshano was out, Robinson was out, Kubo, Santos, Haglund, like all names that are staples in the starting lineup typically when they're healthy. Coach, you go into a game like this, you're missing these guys. What is your mindset as you're watching this? Or you think Cincinnati has a chance going into this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a coach or even as a fan that pays close enough attention, you trust some of these guys, like veterans like Anunga, you trust to step in and do a job in place of a guy like Obi. So you hope that you can maintain the framework of the defense and they're going to put in a shift. The question is, as you get into minute 75, 80 in the heat in Orlando, now you don't have a guy like Anunga to come in to replace an Obi, and you don't have Kubo to come in and replace them. So like that midfield looked gassed at the end of the match. But I think going in, I was one of those who was like, if anything can happen in MLS, let's get that straight first of all. But if FCC get a result in Orlando, I would bite your hand off for a draw. So when they went up 1-0 and then 2-0, I was flying high because I did not expect that, and they outperformed expectations for me.
Yeah. Jason, as you watched the match the other night, the ball was up and down the field. I think Cincinnati had more clearances than normal, than we'll talk about as we again later in the show. As you watch them moving the ball through the midfield, what were you thinking first half versus, now we're up 1 going into halftime, and how things changed maybe in the second half?
Yeah, in the first half, I was really kind of impressed by that piece together front three of Evander, Denke, and Dotto. The movement between the three of them throughout the entire match, I thought was really solid. And Dotto brought, I think, a lot more on the ball skill than maybe Santos or even Kai Kamara could. He's a midfielder playing up front, and he really showed out. I was also really impressed with Brian Anunga. We've been kind of critical of his play from time to time. He's not the guy that's most comfortable passing forward, but he came in and put in a really solid shift. And especially like after we were up, going into the second half, I was kind of worried, in terms of could he see out the match, but how would fatigue play into it? But even there, as he was putting in his shift, he was still making nice passes. He was dropping back on defense, and even had a few passes going forward, which from Anunga you always like to see. So it was good, a solid game overall. And I was listening to Soccer Wise this morning, and they said that they thought that FC Cincinnati played poorly, and I just kind of wondered what game they were watching, because to be honest, even though the momentum was 50-50, I felt like this was one of our more solid performances of the match.
Yeah. Stats watching is what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think we've talked recently here on the show. Cincinnati finishes June undefeated, which is hard to look back because the games were so spaced out, and there was a lot of criticism on social media about how the team looked. Is their heart in it right now? Whatever. There's some of that we had. This was a hard fought match. Like there were Matt Miazga's getting in guys' faces again, guys getting shoved and pushed around. Like this felt like a very, we talk about CONCACAF matches. This felt like a very CONCACAF match that was physical. Guys were not. And so I say that to just say there was heart, there was passion in this match. And I think that, this could be, in my opinion, as I watch, potentially a turning point for, I know we've won the last 3 games, but we're heading into a gauntlet here at the end of the season or the second half of the season to start it. And to see guys play with that much heart. Back to what you said about Anunga, Jason, I think that he did play well, but I noticed Pavel Buka felt like the Pavel Buka at the beginning of the season, that seems to be in recent weeks has had to sink back and play a little bit deeper. And he was getting forward a little bit more this week. And I think that probably has to do some with the play of Anunga back there, winning balls, passing balls forward. I saw some individual performances, Buka making just these beautiful touches around guys. Angle on the left side late in the game, just flicked the ball over a guy's foot and ran around him. And just some individual performances that we haven't seen in a while. So maybe the stats didn't play out. What'd you say, Coach? Maybe we had 40% possession in this match, but they handled the possession that they had. They seemed to do really well, productive things with it. Some of that had to do with Dado Valenzuela in there. And I want to save a lot of this conversation, but I do want to, for later in the show, I've been tooting his horn all year, right? This guy, it's his breakout season. I'm excited to see him play. The chances that he gets, it seems, Jason, you said this earlier too, the fluidity of the movement up top. Coach, can you give us a little tease? We're going to get into talking tactics after our interview. Can you give us a little bit of a tease about what you want to talk about with Dado and his movement on the field?
Yeah, as we get into getting ready to interview Roman here, I will say you talked about Buka pressing up higher. Buka really pushed in the build out for me, more like a 10, which allowed Evander to stay higher. So more touches in the offensive third for Evander. And a lot of that had to do with how effective Dado was at dropping in and finding space. So that's what I really want to dig into in the next segment.
Very good. Well, there's your tease for talking tactics. We're going to push pause on this conversation. We're going to get into that a little bit later, and we're going to bring Roman Celentano here on the screen to join us. Roman, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm good, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, we're doing well. This has been an interview we've been looking forward to for quite some time. As we look through the roster and talk about guys we would love to interview, your name's always top of the list. And so we appreciate you taking the time tonight to jump on and join us. So a couple questions we wanted to just throw at you right off the bat here. So as I look back at, you've been in the league since 2022. As second overall draft pick, Cincinnati's first draft pick that year. All the hype around you and your quadruple save in Indiana, everybody was like, "Oh, this guy, this is awesome." And you came into the league with, a year later, you're up for save of the year, you're up for goalkeeper of the year after your second season. You seem to have a mentality about you, right? Where you go, you win. And you fight for that. As you came into the league, what was your mentality that led to that early success, immediate success that you had?
Yeah, well, thanks for all the nice words. But yeah, I feel like for me, a lot of how I kind of grew up and always felt like I've progressed in certain ways is because I look at myself as coachable and adaptable. I feel like wherever I've gone, either clubs growing up and then when I went to college, I feel like I'm very receptive to good information and feedback from coaches. So coming to FC Cincinnati, I was really excited to work with Paul Rogers, the goalkeeper coach, and Pat Noonan, all these great coaches that we have here. And I just think Paul Rogers, he really specializes in building goalkeepers and developing, not like his style of goalkeepers, but like your style. and kind of building you up from like the biomechanics, the ground up, the tactical side, the technical side, everything we're working on all the time. So I feel like to be in a professional environment with all these great players, like at the time, Brenner, Lucho Acosta, and having these coaches, and then having Paul Rogers there to kind of like build me up, I feel like my adaptiveness and just my work ethic kind of, you know, helped me be in a position to, you know, put a performance on the field if I ever got the shot.
Yeah.
Roman, we had Nick Haglund on here a couple weeks ago, and I asked him this question, so I figure we'll keep the tradition alive. Some athletes can be kind of superstitious, and they have like a pregame ritual. They eat the same thing. Maybe they listen to the same playlist. What are you one of those type of athletes? And if so, what is your pregame ritual like?
Yeah, you like to say you're not superstitious, but then you take a step back and look at everything you're doing the day before a game, the day of the game, at the locker room, and you're like, I can't believe how superstitious I am. Like, it used to be worse when I was first in the leagues. Like, you play a couple good games and it's like, all right, now I have to do this. And then these are the foods I ate that day. I have to do that. I feel like I've kind of matured in that aspect. Like, I mean, the food I eat is like, you know, you try to be clean, whatever, but if you don't have the exact thing, it's like, well, we can't play now because you didn't have your whatever, like your peanut butter toast, like get over yourself, you know? So I feel like I try to stay away from being too superstitious, but like when I'm putting on my gear, it's always left sock first, right sock first, like left shoe first, right shoe, left glove, right glove. Like I try to get some pineapple juice in on the day of the game. I love pineapple juice. So I make sure I get some organic pineapple juice in. And then the first couple of years I listened, like my first 3 years, I listened to the same like 8 songs in a row, like a ritual. I had to listen to these 8 songs in a row, like on the bus or on the car ride to the game. But now I've kind of moved on from that. It's just like, I listen to the same kind of artists, but I kind of moved away from being so rigid in my ways. Cause at the end of the day, it's just about getting ready for the game. So you can't be too worried about that.
Yeah, that's the key, Roman. Call it a ritual, not a superstition, because then it's just about mentality, right? You talked about being coached up on all of the parts of goalkeeping, biomechanics, and you know, when fans think goalkeepers, they think shot stopping. Maybe if they're nuanced, they think building out of the back and playing with your feet. I think a huge underrated part of your game and of goalkeepers' responsibility in general is communication and how complex and constant that needs to be with your backline and midfield specifically. Can you give our listeners some insight into the communication you have, maybe some of the things that you're specifically trying to say or keep an eye out, or how important that is?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of soccer is communication. Well, like it's not necessarily verbal communication. A lot of it is communication with your positioning, your body shape. Like sometimes defenders running at me can't see me. And if I'm like calling for the ball or my body shape, I want it. My body can tell them that. Or if I'm like screaming, like just pointing away or out, it's like it gives them a clue. But you said it's complex communication. Honestly, the more complex it is, the more room for things to go wrong. So a big thing I've been trying to work on, like last year, like when say Matt and Nick went down, I feel like maybe the vocal leadership kind of dropped off a little bit. So maybe I needed to do a bit more, but it's not doing more. It's being more direct and precise in certain moments. So I think like my goalkeeper coach is always on me about like building the side of my game, because I game in kind of, you know, it's not my nature to be super talkative. I'm not like a Nick Haglund normally. So I have to there's like a presence you have to have on the field with your voice, as much as you maybe don't want it to be, and you want to be just kind of doing your thing, you have to have a presence. So I feel like I've worked a lot on just being in certain moments, changing my tone and being vocal and loud on direct things. Cause it's like, I'm not saying anything groundbreaking. It's just like away, home, man on, right? Like, and then for like Gilberto, the Spanish guys, a couple little Spanish words here and there. I don't speak Spanish, but I know like 5 things, and that's all you need for the game. So especially like I feel like people don't understand, like when we're playing at home at TQL, the Bailey is so loud. In the first half, I'm defending the Bailey. The guys in front of me can't hear me past like maybe 10, 15 yards. So it's not like stuff up the field I'm organizing or whatever. Like I'm communicating by my positioning and my link, like my spot with the team. So it kind of communicates if they turn over the ball, I can be in a position to get it back, or if I'm coming for a ball, if I'm not. But when it gets closer to the box, it's like I have to be precise and loud in the moments that I am coming for things or things I don't want. So it's it's just being direct, precise, and changing your tone when you need to.
And how many of those 5 words you know in Spanish are expletives? Just kidding.
I try to stay away from that. Use those in English.
2 follow-up questions to that, Roman, as I listen to you talk. One, you know, when I was a goalkeeper myself, never played at that level. I played in college, messed up my knee and I was done, whatever. But the thing that, as I think back on my experience of communication with my center backs through club and through high school, were the same three guys in front of me for both club and high school. And so the tendencies, the communication made it really, really easy. And there's a lot of times we didn't even need to communicate. I knew what Jason was going to do. He knew what I was going to do. You've had, in your time in Cincinnati, you've had a lot of rotation in that back line and that center, those center backs especially. How does that change your communication when new guys come in, maybe that don't have the same tendencies that you're used to, the guys playing in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I feel like the past couple of years, like last year and this year, especially with Miles always going to the national team, like we've had some injuries. So we've had a lot of rotation in the back line. So it can be difficult to build I guess a cohesive, flow of things at times. But at the end of the day, it's everyone's a professional. Everyone knows what they're doing. It's like maybe there's certain moments it's like Alves is a bit too early to go clear when he could have maybe gone back to me, or I could have called for it earlier. But it's just trying to pick up on some of those things and learn how guys operate in different scenarios, whether defensively or with the ball, and just trying to learn how guys like to play and trying to just, not change my game, but kind of adhere to tendencies and characteristics of certain guys while also just not overdoing it and not trying to, create something that's not there.
Yeah. And my second follow-up to that is I coach goalkeepers now, high school players, and so many of them, like I grew up yelling, screaming at my back line, talking to my forwards, repeating myself over and over and over. And the guys that I coach, I talk about communication a lot. So I'm glad Coach asked this question. What advice would you give to young players who, when I'm telling them, like, Coach, I don't even know what to say? Maybe guys haven't dialed into the tactics of their back line and they're like, I know you want me to talk, but I don't even know what to say. So for a goalkeeper that's just starting out learning this communication process, how to talk to their back line, what advice would you give them?
It's advice that my goalkeeper coach has given me, Paul Rogers, here at Cincinnati. He still harps on me to this day about certain things. It doesn't matter how simple it is. If you just want to get yourself better at talking stuff, if you're in training, just say what you see. If you're playing a ball, you're playing a ball to your center back, tell him time, tell him turn with every pass. If there's a guy on his shoulder, just man on. The ball shifting across, it's coming down the wing. It's get tight, little things. You don't even have to be looking at them, but just say the little things that the center backs will just know you're there and know you're aware of things. So just anytime there's something happening, the ball needs to go away and it seems like an easy decision, the center back just needs to clear it. You think he's going to do it anyways. Just reinforce it with yourself that you're with and just scream away. Every little thing, just try to stay on top of it. It's not anything tactically crazy. It's just whatever's going on. You're seeing something, just say it and be direct.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I got a twofer for you, Roman. First of all, kind of on that same communication route, we saw Evander score a really nice free kick goal on Saturday. As a goalkeeper, if you're facing Evander, what are you telling your defenders when you're setting up the wall and everything like that? Kind of what is going on in your brain when you see somebody like Evander lining up for a free kick?
I mean, it really depends on where the free kick is. And but for Evander, it's a free kick's like a penalty. So it's been a while since he scored one for Evander standards. So it's about time he scored one, But for the Orlando one, it's I know I don't want to talk down on any goalkeeping or anything like that, but Galese is an experienced goalie, and I feel like he is more advanced in his positioning. But if you look at a guy like Evander, you know what quality he has, and you know he's capable of things like that. So you have to kind of position yourself in a way that's all right, I know he is probably going to cross it in, but there's a chance that he can shoot from this angle. So I have to be able to be in a position where I can get back and make that save. So, and then just for a normal wall free kick, it's Evander has a quality to go over under. So it's you just really just got to tell your wall, what we do, if we're inside the box, we don't jump and turn because you maybe go through. So I'm just telling the wall, just get as high as you can on your toes. And if it goes over, so be it. But I'm protecting my side. You protect the 2/3 of the goal you can. And if he somehow gets it up and over, which he can, it's what are we going to do? Maybe we just can't give away the foul next time.
Jason, I know you got another question there.
Yeah.
I just wonder how much of that was Matt Miazga and the stir that he caused on that far side, that it got everybody's attention that way. Giese was watching that and left that near post wide open thinking, oh, somebody's coming on that backside. So that's as
Yeah.
I'm watching, I'm going, oh, that's total distraction. That's beautiful. Let's draw all eyes over there.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Matt Miazga, because it's like you guys said earlier that the game felt CONCACAF-y, and whenever we play Orlando, it is. And it's like when you're coming off a game in the midweek, a game on the weekend, you're going out there. It's like, yeah, you'd like to play nice soccer, and yeah, it'd be nice, but you're in Orlando, middle of the summer, had some injuries, so it's like we're going out there to compete. It's war. It's like you're not going out there to try to play nice. It's like we're finding ways to win, and one of those ways that we can utilize is Matt Miazga causing problems, getting in their head to take their mind maybe off the game. Maybe they're thinking about next play, I'm going to hit him here, and it's like, all right, we'll get through this one. Then by that time, the ball's in play, and then you're getting scored on. So it's little mind games that are always happening on the field, and that's why it's nice having Matt in the squad, because he's not scared to start those things. You saw it in Montreal, first play of the game, he was already just barking and hitting the guys. So he's always kind of like the mind game expert. But yeah, all those things play into it, because there's a lot of little games going on within the game. So that's why it's fun.
Roman, you mentioned the Bailey and how loud they are, but there's a lot of really good supporter sections around the league. What is the toughest place outside of Cincinnati to play as a goalkeeper? And has anyone ever given you a good, talk trash to you that you remember, that kind of like something funny that kind of stuck with you in that situation?
I mean, you wish you could say Columbus, and Columbus is cool, but they're too nice. Like a lot of the places you go in the league, everyone's too nice. Like maybe like if you go to Philly, those guys are mean. If you go to like Red Bull, it's always funny in Red Bull because it's like it's never filled out. They have like a week like supporter section. I feel like all the time we go there, it's like they have a great stadium. It should be like more filled out, but it's not. So you can actually like hear individuals. You can actually hear the individual trips, because like at home, or like you go somewhere like where it's busy, it's like there's too many people, it's too loud, you can't hear individual chirps. But like I don't know, you go to a Red Bull, people are like saying like they're pulling up your mom's Instagram, they're pulling up my sister's Instagram, talking about like the family trip we went on to Utah in 2017. They're doing all this kind of stuff. So it kind of like when it's lower capacity, you can hear stuff. It reminds me of the college days, because like we play away at Akron, and there's just a bunch of like drunk dudes, about like frat guys behind the goal, just like pulling up the Instagram, giving me all sorts. So I love that. I love that aspect of the game. I feel like it could be a bit too nice at times in some MLS stadiums. I wish it was a bit more hostile at times personally, but Orlando had some good chirps, honestly. Like the first half, it was kind of loud. Second half, it was some people were trying to get in my head, but it was just all fun. It's all good stuff.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I want to get to a couple comments here, and then I want to pass it to Coach for a couple questions. FC Bittlinger says, our family loves you, Roman. You've always been generous to my son. We saw you at a hotel in Chicago this year before the game. Thank you for your kindness. And I think we have a lot of fans that have said similar things as we've talked about you here on the show. So thank you for that, and just the way you pay attention to fans and young fans especially. And then John Dench has a question similar to the one I asked you earlier. Mine was specific about communication, but what's good advice for young keepers, and what skills do you wish you had worked on first?
Yeah, it's kind of a question I get asked a lot. I feel like I should have a better answer, but for me, it's honestly play as much as you can. And your number one priority for me as a goalkeeper should be to keep the ball out of the net. You should like bravery is a must for a goalkeeper. It's something you can't really train it. You just have to be out there with the mindset of, this is my goal. Like, I'm going to do everything in my power to stop anything coming in. So yeah, it's like, if you have extra time and like work on all the technical bits, try to learn the game, try to work on your feet. Cause especially these days, that's all it seems like they care about for goalkeepers and stuff. But for me, it's like, my big thing growing up was I love just diving around, getting dirty and saving the ball. Didn't care how I did it. So my advice to young goalies is always just like, watch the ball and save it.
Yeah,
that is really good advice.
Yeah, my friend Dustin's in the chat says PKs, me versus you, Roman. Let's get it on the books. I don't think I can move that quick anymore. So you win. I'll just defer to you on that, Coach.
Yes. All right, Roman, we got some lightning round questions for you. Some of them are a little bit serious, but a lot of them are fun. So feel free to take them wherever your heart desires. First one, in your estimation, what is your biggest strength as a goalkeeper?
Shot stopping and crosses. I feel like my aerial game's strong, and I just love keeping the ball at the net. So I feel like I'm pretty good at those two.
Awesome. So what is one part of your game on that you are focused on improving right now?
I mean, obviously, just the stuff with the ball. I feel like without the ball defending the goal, I'm just keep elevating my game, but it's just the consistency with the ball kind of stuff. Like I feel like my understanding of the game's gotten a lot better and moments when to go and stuff, but I feel like execution can always be better.
Speaking of Orlando City, we saw Rodrigo Schlegel have to step into goal for them in a past season. If you had to hand your gloves over to one field player on FC Cincinnati for a full match, who would you choose and why?
I know there's a lightning round, but this is tough because Nick Hagelin definitely backs himself. I feel like he'd be a good shout. I think sleeper pick Lucas Engel, the Dane. Like Danish goalkeepers have a technique where they catch the ball like instead of scooping it or catching it here, they catch it like this. They wrap the arms around when a shot's coming like this, and he's really good at the Danish catch. So I feel like that'd be fun to see in game him utilize that. So I'd say those two guys are top of the list. I feel like Miles would just be elite because of his athleticism. So those three probably.
That's incredible. So if you're not playing goalkeeper, we got one of those guys in. What position are you going to play if you're not between the sticks?
Put me up top.
Scoring goals. I love it.
Posting up. Yeah.
What is the best piece of non-playing advice that you've been given since you became a pro?
It's a great lightning round question.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would say like it's a lot of good advice I get from my goalkeeper coach, Paul Rogers, and a lot of it is not like just soccer related. And I mean, some of it is, but some of it isn't. But like perspective is like the perception of you is maybe more important than you at times. So I feel like it doesn't really matter sometimes in games. Maybe you're not feeling confident or maybe you're not like in the way that you are, but yeah, to have the perception that you're running things and that you're feeling good. So I feel like it works well in life. It's like, maybe you're not feeling great at times, but you have to like carry yourself in a way. It's like, I am the man. This is like I'm not, there's nothing wrong with me. Like I'm all good. So, I feel like just the way people might see you or something is, more important than how you're feeling or what's going on. Cause you're trying to reach somewhere. So you always have to hold that standard.
Fake it till you make it. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Last one from me. And this is your chance. Again, take this however you want. What is one player on FC Cincinnati that maybe you think doesn't get enough credit from the fans and the media that you want to take an opportunity to shout out right now?
I feel like you already said it, but Dado, he is an absolute baller. I think he's disgusting. Like he's just nasty with the ball. Good kid. Like he has a really high ceiling. So I just hope he keeps getting opportunities and keeps balling because he's been great for us this year.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fun. Roman, thanks for being on the show tonight. Want to give you an opportunity, just one last question to wrap it up. You've talked about it a little bit as we've gone through here, but is one thing that you wish people knew about being a goalkeeper? Like, do you wish all fans could understand? Maybe it's the mentality, maybe it's how difficult it is to save a ball when it comes through the defender's legs and you didn't even see the shot. Like, what's one thing that you wish all fans could understand?
Yeah, I feel like you kind of touched on it, but it's like you're in your own world. Like you're playing with a team, but you're not really a part of it. You're kind of like in your own world most of the time, and everything happens like that. So there's a lot of work and stuff that goes in before saving a shot or before a goal goes in. And like a lot of times it's like the one in Orlando on the weekend, like I'm cutting back in to get ready for a shot, and I don't see it until it's around 3 guys. It's going the bottom corner. So, I mean, it's not an excuse. Every goal is always the goalie's fault because it's like, it's our goal, but it's like, a lot of stuff happens fast, and maybe, I don't know, a lot of stuff happens that people don't really understand. It's like, oh, like that was an easy one. Why didn't he say that? Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the games that people aren't really aware of. So I would say my advice would be just like, you go in goal, you check it out, see how it feels. Like there's a lot of people that talk about haven't really been in goal because when you're in there and you're feeling the pressure and different things are going on, it's like, it looks a lot different than it does on TV. So I would say just like it's a different perspective in the goal. So unless like, you're a goalie, you know what it's like. So unless someone's really been in there, it's just not really like something I can, explain.
Yeah. I have a friend that's always said, like, I wish I could be a running back for one play in the NFL and just see what it really feels like to get hit like that. I sometimes want to say, like, get in the goal one time when you've got a world-class athlete hitting the ball at you and see how quick you react. Anyway, Roman, thanks for being on the show. We really like I said, we're looking forward to having you on and appreciate you taking the time to do it. As fans, we're lucky to have you in Cincinnati. As one of the best goalkeepers in Major League Soccer. We get to see you week in and week out and get to hear a little bit about the man behind the goalkeeper there. So thanks for joining us again.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for the nice words. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All right. Well, that was fun. having Roman on and just getting perspective on, what it's like on, communicating with that back line and as things rotate and different players are out on the field, and to hear what he had to say about some of his teammates, I really appreciated that. Guys, we want to thank our second half sponsor of the show here before we get into our Talking Tactics segment. Beyond Exercise, it's a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS Next Pro and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. All right, Coach, you teased us a little bit about what you want to talk about with Talking Tactics here, and the name Dado Valenzuela has come up before the interview, during the interview, and now after the interview. Tell us a little bit about Dado Valenzuela.
Yeah, you teased it. I teased it. Roman teased it. We're doing pretty well here. I want to talk about what Dado brings to the team that I feel like no other player really can, or at least does. And I want to start that by talking through some stats. We talked about soccer-wise saying, FCC kind of got outplayed. Well, they ended the match with 40% possession. They tallied 40 clearances on the night. That's basically when you just heave the ball forward and you're not attempting to pick out a teammate, because if you're heaving it towards a teammate, they call it a long pass. They average under 28 clearances per game, so a lot of clearances. They had a season low in progressive passes, a season low in long passes. So why am I talking about this? What does this mean? And more importantly, I think for our conversation is, why am I talking about it in the context of Dado Valenzuela? Typically what we see from FCC in possession is they push their wingbacks really high, and they rely on their center backs, who are some pretty good passers, and their defensive center midfielders to try to progress the ball, often to those wingbacks. The goal is to have Evander and Orishano play as kind of left and right sided 10s when they're playing in that sword formation, and then get them on the ball in the half spaces in front of the opposition's back line, or have Evander as a lone number 10, kind of a free role with a guy like Kai Kamara or Santos out there as an additional target to play the ball high up the field too. Well, opponents know this, and often they will high press FC Cincinnati, and when those center backs or defensive midfielders are struggling to find those players up the pitch, a guy like Evander just starts dropping deeper and deeper, and then the problem compounds. Now, when you have Orishano out there, he isn't quite as effective at finding space and dropping in to get on the ball as Evander is. And Kai Kamara or Santos, a guy like that, you need windows to pass the ball into them. They are checking to the ball, but they're not dropping in and finding space. They're like seeing a window and checking forward into it. So this match, when FC Cincinnati had solid possession, they pushed Buka high, dropped Dado in. So it was more like Buka and Dado were dual 10s, and that gave Evander more of a free role, like that second forward role. And Dado makes this work because he has an incredible ability to read space. He finds windows to sit in and to get the ball that are like against the grain of the play. He sees a pass ahead and sits in that space, and that allowed him to lead the team with 8 progressive receptions. His ability to read space is even more evident as the ball is coming to him. And that's one of the hardest skills as a midfielder. As that ball is coming to you and the defender is closing, where is your first touch going to put the ball so that defender can't win that ball off of you? And it shows with how often he is fouled. His first touch so often puts the defender in a bad spot that he drew 5 fouls in this match in only 60 minutes of play. That was first on the team. You know how many fouls second place drew? 1. And third place and fourth. Nobody else drew more than 1. A great illustration of this is the sequence that led to him getting fouled leading up to that Evander free kick. That first touch was filthy. He cut that ball in on Janssen. It wasn't particular. He didn't keep it close to him or anything, but he knew where he could put the ball, where he could get the second touch before a defender could. He cut the defender with his second touch, and then he turned his back to the third defender and got clattered, right? Dado is so good at this, which allows Evander to stay higher up the pitch. Evander had 56% of his 48 touches in the attacking third. But remember, FCC didn't have a lot of progressive passes either. So why? So progressive passes only count by definition if they are in the attacking 2/3 of the field. If you make a progressive pass from the defensive third, it doesn't count as a progressive pass. That's just moving the ball forward for the stats, right? When you are playing with really good vertical spacing, because you have the back 4 or 5, depending on how they're set up, then you have a Nunga, then you have a Buka, then you have a Dado, then you have a Vander and a Denki, right? You have that vertical spacing. You're not having to hit 15 or 20 yard line splitting passes all the time. You're able to play shorter and simpler. And Dado being able to receive the ball between those lines in front of guys like Evander and Kevin Denke and then turn really, really helps that out. So the question is whether this is a feature, if this is something that Pat Noonan wants the team to do more often, wants to try to get Orishano to do when he's out there, or if this is just good moments from a good young player that we hope to continue to see. So that's what I wanted to talk about tactically. And I would love for you guys to give your thoughts on what I'm seeing. You can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me you think that it's actually a little bit different, but it's definitely, at least in this Orlando City match, even despite the lack of possession and everything, led to a higher percentage of chances being created that were actually good chances instead of just hopeful shots from distance.
Yeah, by the eye test, right? I mentioned earlier today to a couple people, like, it seems that Cincinnati seems to score more goals when Dado Valenzuela is on the field, like in a particular game. And so I was like, I don't know, that sounds pretty ridiculous without any stats, maybe super ignorant, but I looked it up, did some research today. In the 13 games that Dado Valenzuela has played, some of those have been just, junk minutes at the end of the game. Some of them have been a full 90 or 80 minutes or whatever before he gets subbed out. 13 matches that he's played in, Cincinnati has scored 23 goals in those matches. In the 7 matches that he hasn't seen any time in this season, they've scored 8 goals. So basically, when he's not out there, it's 1-1. 1 goal per game when he's not there. When he is there, it's 23-13. So it's not quite 2 goals per game. I think it's 1.77 as I look at the stats. And he's not scoring those goals, but I think it's what you're saying, Coach. It's he's getting on the ball more. He's got some vision. I see him driving into the box more than maybe other players have done. And then, so he's dangerous in there. But the other thing that you mentioned, and I compare it to Kubo a little bit, when Kubo came back and played, his ability to turn a defender quickly and move forward instead of having a defender on his back, playing the safe pass back, and then making a run. Dado is really good at that. Now, some would say, all these fouls, he takes a lot of dives, he makes them look really pretty, but the kid is getting strong. We saw him earlier in the season throw somebody down out of his way when he scored his first goal. In this match, it was very, like we said, CONCACAF. He's knocking guys around. He's going in for some hard tackles. I've seen his game grow a lot just physically this year, but I think the creativity when he's out there in the spaces that he finds is something special, and I look forward to seeing him more out there. I think he brings a lot to that front three.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, I don't see a lot of dives out of him. I did earlier, maybe last year, and I don't think they were dives so much as they were him making his clever first touch, expecting the contact and not wanting to take it and kind of jumping over the contact as he falls to the ground. So he's not really diving per se. I think he's legit getting hammered. At least he was against Orlando City. There were a couple times he got hammered that they didn't call it. And I think his touches are so creative. Sometimes I think he fools the referee. I don't think the referee catches that subtle touch that takes that ball away from the defender, and then he gets like the toe to the ankle, that causes him to go down in a heap, and it looks like it can't even be that big of a contact. But when you're standing kind of on one foot as you move the ball with the other, and you get a toe to that ankle, and it throws you off balance, I think it's pretty natural that you're going to go down in a lot of those cases.
Yeah, exactly.
Jason, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Coach, I shared on our Slack earlier this week, like this video someone did comparing with the Club World Cup, comparing how the Brazilian teams play a very short pass style versus the European teams who play very long, expansive passing and everything. And one thing to my untrained eye that I noticed last night was that with Dado on the field and maybe without Luca out there, they were trying to play some more shorter, high percentage passes off of each other. And to me, that's what really made the offense look a lot more fluid and gave even guys like Denke opportunities to find space.
Yeah, I think that some of that was tactical. Like some of it is Dado's ability to find space, but as opposed to when Orishano is out there, I think because, and this is me just projecting, I'm just guessing, I have no idea, but it seems to me like Pat Noonan doesn't want to give Orishano a totally free role because he doesn't know what to expect from him. So basically when Orishano is out there as a 10, Evander plays one side and Orishano plays the other. right? They don't have a free role, so it's tougher for them to interchange. It looks to me like Dado was kind of going where he wanted. He wasn't really playing a striker. He wasn't really playing a dual 10, and Evander kind of also had a free role. So that trust of their ability to take up space allows them to play off of each other, because Dado a couple times was making runs to the corner and allowing Evander to fold in. And there were also a couple times when Dado was checking in and Evander was the furthest one up the pitch. He was actually making a run off of Kevin Denke's back shoulder because Dado was taking up good space to help link that play. And so that kind of creativity and movement, I think, breeds trust in the coaching staff.
Yeah, it seemed too that, as you mentioned, Denke and Evander seem to play better together. There's that connection that I know some of folks from our team at least have been critical of. Are these two, can they play together? I think a guy like Valenzuela gives opportunity, the fluidity of movement to get Denke on the ball more with Evander in spaces. That now he's got two options instead of trying to hit the guys running down the wings. He's got guys down in the middle of the field with him as well. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing more of Dado on the field this year as we go into the second half of the season. I will say this too. One of the other stats that kind of blew my mind as I looked at this, right, that Dado is the most efficient goal scorer on the team. At least of those three that we talked about, right? He's played in the minutes that he's played, he scores 1 goal for every 114 minutes that he plays. Denke, I believe, is 1 goal for every 143 minutes that he plays, and Evander's got 1 goal for every 135 minutes or something that he plays. So they're all close, but giving Dado scoring 1 goal, every 30 minutes less than Kevin Denke does. Now, again, the time that he's been on the field and the things that he's faced and there's a lot of things that play into that, but he's a guy that's lethal, is what I'm saying, is he can score and he can create space for other people to score goals. And Cincinnati scores more goals when he's out there.
Yeah, and it's a small sample size, so it's tough to make it completely predictive, but you'd rather the small sample size tell you good things like that than the opposite, right?
Sure.
You'd rather not be arguing, well, he only scores once every 600 minutes, but small sample size, Right. Something that's super interesting about that is Dado has not even had the availability of the player who leads the team in key passes on the pitch with him for a lot of those minutes, because some of those early minutes that he got was in place of Evander as opposed to playing with Evander. And so that's fascinating to me that the numbers tell that kind of a story when it's not even like, oh, well, Dado's coming out there and playing, weakened sides with a full strength FC Cincinnati team. It's just not the case. Orshano wasn't on the pitch. I am salivating at the thought of FC Cincinnati playing the similar type tactic, but having a guy like Orshano in one of the wide attacking positions, whether it's for Engel or Yedlin, or if they move to a back four and play sort of a hybrid with Dado coming in as a nominal winger, but playing more like a 10. That kind of thing, I think, could be so dynamic with the way that we've seen Orshano crossing the ball and finding space with passes to the middle.
Yeah, a lot of good things to come. This felt like, again, maybe a turning point for Cincinnati. It's just, again, seeing some of the guys coming off the bench put in performances like they did, physical battle. Looking forward to, we got some tough games coming up, right? There's a gauntlet here at the starting the second half of the season, and it looked like they got some pieces put together that can handle the games that we have coming up. So let's move on and talk about our U.S. women's national team, who played at TQL Stadium for a little bit, and then the U.S. men's national team, who had a CONCACAF game this last night, I believe it was, right? And so I was doing a podcast, started at 9:00 right as they were starting their penalty kicks, and it was super distracting to try and do one thing while I'm watching another. So let's start with the women's game earlier in the day, 3:00 at TQL Stadium. Coach, I believe you were there. Tell us about the environment at a U.S. women's national team game in Cincinnati with Rose Lavelle on the bench there, waiting to come in at any moment.
Yeah, over 24,000 people there. It felt full. Like, you could look and see empty seats. It didn't feel crowded, but it felt full. The environment was great. The American Outlaws version of the Bailey was pretty good, other than it sounded an awful lot like they were just doing the FC Cincinnati cheers, but trying to insert USA instead of FCC. So that was a little bit awkward. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved seeing the crossover jerseys. I saw a Jeff Cameron U.S. men's national team jersey, so the FC Cincinnati crossover. Lots of people. I saw some people wearing Ireland jerseys, but Cincinnati Reds hats, sort of thing. So like, that's some of the fun of international matches, right? But yeah, I thought the environment was really good. Coolest moment of the match was when the entire crowd, it felt like all 24,000, started chanting, "We want Rose." She was sitting on the bench at this point, not warming up with her teammates, sitting in the back row. And I'm talking with the people I'm there with. She's not going in. She's not even in the front. She's in the back row of the bench, just chilling. "We want Rose" goes and goes. And all of a sudden you see Emma look up in the bench and wave down, and Rose scampers off the bench, and the crowd went nuts. And then she went and stood by the trainer and didn't warm up for like 10 minutes, which I thought was really funny. You could tell Emma must have said to her, like, "Rose, you're not going to go in until like the 87th minute. So go stand there down there and make them happy, and then run around a bit right before you go in at the end."
There's a really cool video that I saw on social media today of Rose and her reaction to that, and then her checking in, and Emma says to her, like, "Go on and get your flowers," or something like that, because of the crowd. And her reaction was very genuine. It makes me wish we had an NWSL team here all the more when you see stuff like that.
Yeah. Disappointed. I know she's coming off injury and she played a lot of minutes in the last game. Kind of disappointed that in front of the home crowd, she didn't get a little bit more time, but I understand the game management and player management, the injury rehab and management there. Beautiful game. It was so fun to watch. A lot of new faces making their debuts or coming out for their second or third cap. A lot of fun to watch. The ball coming down the right side with, I believe it was Sears out there on the right side, just floating balls in, just one after another into the center. Like, they weren't driven, they were just floated and put right on the foot or right on the head of the players driving in. It was something special to watch with some of these new players getting their opportunity to shine in a moment there in Cincinnati. I wish I could have been there to see it live, but seeing it on television and being able to see the replays of those beautiful balls coming in, like, it was a lot of fun. They've got a solid team. I know they maybe took a dip when, the last crop of players went out, like, who's going to step in. And I think they're managing their team well, and they're getting young players opportunities in big spots. I think the future's bright, really bright for the U.S. women's national team. Now we shift to the U.S. men's national team that we could talk about. Is the future bright? Is it not so bright? I don't know. Played a game against Costa Rica that some would say should have been a game that they should have walked off with a big win. Others, I don't think we're giving them much of a chance against a team like Costa Rica with the way the United States has been playing. It was a battle. It went into penalties, and they did pull away in the end in sudden death. Like, they had to go the 5 and then another couple to win that game. What did you guys see in the U.S. men's game as you watch them face off against Costa Rica?
Diego Luna continues to be the only person on that squad with any heart. That is my takeaway of the U.S. men's national team this entire summer. Is that
I would throw Tillman in there.
Yeah, Tillman's doing well. What's his name? Ajimon, I think is.
Yep.
Hey, he's doing okay. But I'm the one thing I am liking about this squad that's at the Gold Cup is that it's not our stars, and it's a bunch of guys who are kind of, B team players, C team players that are fighting for a spot for the World Cup. And you've got a guy like Diego Luna, who's, if you don't know anything about his background, coming from not like the best background in the world to be a MLS player and a star in MLS to now like one of the leaders of this particular national team, has just been the best thing about this entire run this summer to me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'll be the requisite FC Cincinnati homer here and say something that's so tough for me to understand. So Max Arston playing as a left fullback, a left outside back, was good going forward, an absolute dog sausage defending. It was terrible. And old man Tim Ream could not cover for him. It was evident that every time they got in behind Arston, Ream was 2 or 3 steps slow to get out there. And I feel like there's a guy, I can't really remember his name because I haven't seen him in so long, that has incredible closing speed, that has experience playing left center back, and that is also a pretty good passer out of the back. So if you want to talk about Tim Ream's passing ability, you're not even taking a huge step back there. And I don't understand why we're not seeing Miles Robinson get any game time in place of Tim Ream there.
I think Noonan just said they want to save him because they need him for this last stretch of the game. Maybe that's what it was, Coach.
Yeah. I will say, in terms of how the game flow went, I think Costa Rica made this a full-on CONCACAF match. They made it ugly. They were doing things like kicking the guy's heel as he's running, so he trips himself, like playground tricks. And I think the U.S. team can take heart in their physical and emotional response. Like you talked about not caring, Jason, and I agree for large parts of that, but there were some moments, where they were almost getting into fights when they were backing each other up, and I think that response was better than we've seen in a long time. I think the hard part is how mentally rattled they looked after giving up that game tying goal. From then on, it was like holding on for penalties. But in the end, we all got what we wanted, which was John Tolkien missing a penalty, but yet the U.S. still winning. It's like the best of both worlds, right?
Yeah, I was on another podcast the other night trying to update our team there, and I went, John Tolkien's taking the last kick, and we could, nope, John Tolkien's not taking the last kick.
To be fair to J-Mo or J-Mar, whatever they call him, he failed to account for the curvature of the earth, so he just missed it by a few centimeters there.
I don't even know what to say to that. Oh, man. So we're moving on. We're playing Guatemala, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the semifinals. What night is that? I haven't looked at that. I should have looked. Wednesday night. Guatemala semifinals. Any predictions in that match?
It's tough to make a prediction when you like this team, it's a little like MLS. We talked about them looking a little like FC Cincinnati the last time I was on this show in terms of like struggling to score. It's a little like MLS. You kind of feel like any given day, any of these CONCACAF teams can beat another. The U.S. should be able to beat Guatemala, but Guatemala does have Kimi Ordonez. So, wild card, you never know.
And Guatemala did just knock off Canada, who is supposed to be a pretty good squad. So.
But they were playing with 10 men for more than 45 minutes. So,
but Kimi Ordonez, man, I called his breakout season last year. Maybe it's this year for Guatemala. Who knows? Yeah. No, look forward to that game, that match, to see what the U.S. men's team brings to the field with a leader like Diego Luna showing the heart that he has, a guy like Malik Tillman. I'm curious how he is feeling today after the boxing match he got in just over and over, knocked to the ground the other day. I wonder what he's going to be like once he steps out on Wednesday night against Guatemala. We'll talk more about that maybe next week on the show. I want to move into our final thoughts here, but before we get there, just want to remind you that if you want to support, if you like the content that we're putting out here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk, here on our Monday night show, Jersey Swap with Jeff Tebbets, there's orange and blue profiles we're putting out on YouTube. If you've seen any of that and you'd like what we do and you'd like to support Cincinnati Soccer Talk, visit us at cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support, not backslash, it's a slash support. I've been saying it wrong for so long. From there, you're able to sign up for our Patreon for just $5 a month. You can join our Growler Cup as we move into the end of the season here, and some other great bonus CST content, live chats, and things like that. We'd love to see you over there on Patreon. Now, guys, let's move into our final thoughts. We got a couple minutes left here. Jason, I'm going to start with you on our final thoughts tonight.
My final thought, if you've been watching the Club World Cup and you come away with this with complaints, I don't know what's wrong with you. This has been so much fun as a soccer fan to see, you always kind of think about, okay, what if this team could play this team? And outside of EA Sports FC, whatever they're calling it now, the FIFA video games, you could never see what it would be like if Palmeiras played Inter Milan or whatever. But now we get that. But all I'm seeing and it's exclusively European people, because the South American folks, North American folks, we're all Asian folks, all loving this whole thing, is the complaints about the heat, complaints about lightning delays, because apparently, it's not football if your players can't get killed by a lightning strike. Just all of this stuff. And it's bleeding into stuff that they're talking about for World Cup next year. And I'm over it. I'm over it. It's so 99% of it is just concern trolling or rage baiting. It is so stupid. The World Cup next year is going to be fine. Look, I'm not a super big fan of everything going on in our country right now, too. So I understand if certain people have apprehensions about certain things. But when it comes to like the facilities and the weather and all of that, it's going to be fine. And I really hope that in 4 more years, we host the Club World Cup again, just so the European folks can get mad all over again, because I'm eating it up. I'm loving it.
Awesome. Jason, you're always good for a good take here at the end of the show. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for that take. Coach, final thoughts.
Yeah, I talk a lot on here when people say, who fix this player? What would you say to them? I say when a team or a player has the talent to be really good, but they're struggling, the best thing you can do as a coach is simplify things for them, simplify the game plan. And I think that's what FC Cincinnati did against Orlando City. They didn't abandon possession, even though they had only 40% of it. They still were taking free kicks short in the defensive third. They were still trying to build, but they also didn't overthink it. When there wasn't a play there, they weren't afraid to kind of dump the ball forward into the channels, almost like a hockey play, like dumping it around the boards and let your wingers chase. They did that a few times, and even to some success getting possession. But basically, they weren't afraid to give the ball up, to lose it, like they have been in the past. And I think, because I'm assuming this is at the direction of the coaching staff, that it shows real trust in the FC Cincinnati defense that they were going to keep Orlando at bay when they were organized and structured, as long as they weren't scramble situation. And also great trust in the offense that, hey, we're not going to have as much on the ball, so we're not going to create as many chances, but we trust that you will finish some of those chances that you do create. And the team rewarded the staff with 2 goals and not giving up really any chances for Orlando until after the 80th minute, which I think was pretty impressive. I hope we get to see them build on this trust and then continue to add complexity in after that and maybe build that possession back up. But you have to start with this simple game plan. And I was really, really happy to see that. So my final thought is this: don't get caught up in the bad stats and be like, but FC Cincinnati, they only won by 1. And but FC Cincinnati, they lost the XG battle and the possession battle. Are they just getting lucky? Some of that is true. You need to generate XG. You need to generate chances. But some of that, I think, is something that you can continue to build through as you're winning games and getting the basics right.
Yeah, good take, Coach. Always good for the stats and the tactical talk and simple game plan. So I like that. Thanks for joining us tonight. My final thought, I just want to follow up with what you said, the chance creation, things like that with Cincinnati. I got into the stats a little bit more today as I was just digging. Cincinnati has 2 players in double digits already this season, with Evander and Kevin Denke, both with 11 goals each. You know who does not have 2 players in double digits? Anyone else in the league. We have 2 guys with 11 goals. There are only 2 other players in the entire league with more goals than 2 of our players, which is pretty phenomenal. We're winning games by 1 goal. Yes, these guys are scoring a lot of our goals, but we've got 2. You know who else doesn't have 11 goals? A guy named Leo Messi doesn't have 11 goals. We've got 2 guys on our team with more goals than Messi this season. Pretty phenomenal stat. I'll take that as we move into the second half of the season. And I will also take the fact that those 2 guys that are scoring all these goals seem to be playing a little bit more consistently together, with a guy by the name of Dado Valenzuela in the middle, moving the ball around a little bit more consistently and creatively. Looking forward to what Cincinnati can bring in these next couple of matches. They're going to be tough ones. We'll talk about them here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk in the coming weeks. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next Monday night.